This is my talking to the text video. For chapter 2 of the Language Rich Classroom, my first point is Cox had said that he developed an academic word list consisting of words that were not among the first 2,000 high-frequency words used in text. Examples of words in the academic word list were albeit, despite, principle, and style. There were 570 word families in all. I did the surprised reaction to this. It's a lot of word families, and there's a lot of high frequency words for students to learn. I don't even think I could learn 570 word families in a short amount of time. I'm probably still learning word families, to be honest, and that's kind of crazy to think about because I'm in college and English is my first language. And just to reference back, this is my breakdown for my symbols. That's a thought, a surprise, a question, a feeling, and then I like it and why for all of my symbols. So going back to my presentation, chapter 2 of Language Rich Classroom, point 2. This is an I like it. But we need to find innovative ways to support ELLs in their understanding of an ability to be successful in content reading, and we need to be strategic in how we use the textbook, supplementing our content reading with additional high-interest nonfiction resources. I said that there's so many great high-interest nonfiction resources out there for us to use, and we don't really use them. I mean, whenever I was in school, not many teachers used high-interest nonfiction resources. We just used boring nonfiction resources, which caused me to not really enjoy reading nonfiction. This was a thought. These findings are a cause for concern, both because of the missed opportunity to prepare students for informational reading and writing they will encounter in later schooling and life, and for the missed opportunity to use informational text to motivate more students' interest in literacy in their present lives. And I said if we teach students to love reading and learning early on, then it will be less of a burden and hopefully less boring to them as they go through school. So mostly just if we teach students to love what they're reading and learning about, then they will continue to love it as they go throughout their school career. The fourth point for this chapter was they may even experiment with these words in their speech or academic papers. And I said that we need to remember to be patient with them as they learn what words mean and make sure this was a feeling one. And make sure they know that it is good for them to use academic language in their speech and writing, even if it may not be the correct word. We can explain the word they used and give examples of other academic languages they could use in place of that misplaced word. So say they use thou instead of a correct word, then we can let them know that that was a good try and thou may go here instead of there, but in this place this specific word would go in that sentence, if that makes sense. For chapter 3 of the Language Rich Classroom, my first point is an I like it, and it was about found poems. So found poems, initial developer unknown, are an excellent way of placing the focus on comprehension once students have completed an initial reading of a content passage. I like this because it's an easy way for students to annotate their poems. They can find their own poem in the passage, and this can become a new way for them to read and comprehend in the future as well. So whenever they read new passages, they can use that as a way to comprehend all passages if they like this way. This was a feeling, and it was about the I am poems. I am poems are typically used as a way for students to introduce themselves and for teachers to build community in the classroom, but they're also great ways for students getting to think about content in meaningful ways. I said these are great ways for teachers to get to know their students, and this is like on a personal level, like really getting to know them like a deep level. And they might get to know that the student is suffering from food insecurity, or that the student lives with the grandparents at home, and they might not have known that before. Or it could just be surface level things like, my name is Joseph, and I have brown hair, and we already know that about Joseph. And this is also helpful for students putting themselves in someone else's shoes. This was a thought. This is my third point for chapter 3. This is presentation grids. And presentation grids scaffold the experience for the non-presenters so that they can actively collect valuable information about the presentation instead of passively observing. And I said about how whenever I was in school, sometimes my teachers would do this, and I would be so focused on filling in the boxes that I would miss pieces of information that my peers were speaking about. I feel that this could be a problem in the classrooms today too, especially with ELLs. If they're trying to write down things in English, they may be missing what their peers are talking about. An easy way to get ELLs and all students excited about reading informational text is to introduce the topic as a unit and then set up an informational book table on the back of the room for students to leisurely browse during free moments. And I said that I'm not an ELL, but this would get me excited about reading informational texts, and having the free choice of choosing whatever book I would like is also really exciting. I feel that students would like looking through all the different kinds of books and choosing which ones they like the pictures in, or which ones they like the title of, and which ones they can even connect with on a personal level. This one is for chapter 4, the language rich classroom, and this is the first point. This is a feeling one. Teachers' empathetic reactions towards their students were often what ended up causing them not to venture towards allowing students time to process and think through big issues that require time and thought. So many times we try to help our students, but we end up hurting them even if we do not know it. That's what I said, and that's like a big problem because we want to help our students, but if we keep beating around allowing them to process and think about these big issues, then we're hurting them in the end, and that's not okay. And we need to give them that time to really think deep about some of these bigger issues. This is a thought. Properly channeled empathy can lead to creating classroom environments where students are free to take risks and where opportunities for developing higher levels of thinking have been heavily scaffolded. And I said, we as teachers need to know how to properly channel our empathy and not pity our students and give them the easy way out and hurt them in their education. I feel like a lot of times we want to help our students, but sometimes helping our students is not helping our students because we think we're helping them, but we're not. We try to give them the easy way out, but giving them the easy way out is just harming them more than helping them. Even though I keep saying that, it's what we end up doing a lot of the time. And I've seen it so many times, even as like I watch teachers teach. This was a feeling reaction, and I said we can find other ways to protect the students or the quote was, "We can find other ways to protect students from unnecessary embarrassment, but it shouldn't be by way of eliminating opportunities for developing higher order thinking." I said, as stated before, we are just hurting our students when we take these opportunities away from them. There are so many other issues that they may be dealing with that we can help with if we feel the need to step in and help. These issues could be food insecurity or abuse at home possibly, or even just the fact that they are learning a new language and that they are trying to adapt to a new culture. And that in itself could be something that we could help with. But eliminating opportunities for developing higher order thinking is not something that will protect them from unnecessary embarrassment. It will just end up embarrassing them in the end because they need to know how to do that. And the last point for chapter 4 was a surprise, and it was reading A to Z is an electronic subscription service for about the same price as 10 trade paperbacks. That gives teacher access to over 2,000 fiction and nonfiction printable books in English, Spanish, and French. And I was surprised by this because that is a lot of different kinds of books, and it's fiction and nonfiction, which is kind of crazy because usually it's just one or the other. And it's in 3 different languages. French was kind of the one that surprised me, and this will be a great resource for my future classroom. This is for chapter 9 of total participation techniques. The first point is, I like it, and it says TPTs make great formative assessments. The students leave your class and you know exactly where to pick up the next day instead of wondering if you need to review the concept with the whole class or pull a select group of kids. You have this great information, so it makes your planning so much easier. And I said I like this because it shows me why these will be helpful in my classroom. Because I sort of wondered in the beginning of this class what TPTs were and why I would use them in my classroom. But now that I've read through the book, I really know that I'm going to use TPTs in my classroom. So this really solidified that. This was a feeling one, and it says, It's helped me me a more effective teacher, getting every kid to respond and thinking about when to do this. When you make it more deliberate, the kids really rise. So many times we don't hear from all the students. So many times we don't hear from all the students, so we don't know what they understand or what they're struggling with. This is really important because sometimes we don't hear from 1 or 2 of the students ever. And whenever we hear from all of the students all the time, that's super important and something that we really need to remember to look into. This was another feeling, and it was quick writes allow you to get inside their heads. I found it really important to connect with students, and this is a great way to connect with them. This could be on like a deep level, or it could also just be connecting with them on an educational level, which both are very important in their own ways. This is the 4th point. I did a question and a surprise with this. And it says, then when you get a test score that appears to be an outlier, which may happen more often for English language learners and students with special needs than others, you'll be better able to determine whether that test was or was not actually measuring what you hoped it would be measuring. And I said, I wouldn't have thought of this, and how can we fix this grade then? And I sort of feel like that an answer to this question could be taking another test, but that way it's fair for all students. Taking a test just for the student, maybe written in a different way, but that way everyone is still getting a grade. Because if we just take that test out completely, then it's not fair for all of the other students. And this is for chapter 10. This was an I like it, and it says, students are allowed to express themselves through the use of TPTs. They had so much to say and they didn't even know it. And I said, I like this because it shows that TPTs can help us understand students better, and it can help them understand themselves better. Both of these are important. We need to understand our students better, and they need to understand themselves better. ELLs need to understand themselves better, and our other students need to understand themselves better. Themselves as an individual and themselves as a class. Both are important, and we would like to understand our students better. Sometimes we need to know ourselves as teachers better. This was a feeling reaction. She stopped to reflect on one student's quick draw. After the student explained her use of symbolism in the drawing, Potter probed, "Do other teachers know you're this deep?" The student responded, "No, I don't think so." And I said, so many times we don't know enough about our students as people. We only know them as learners. This is why I will use TPTs in my classroom. This really, really hit me hard whenever she asked if other teachers knew that she was this deep, and she said, no, I don't think so. Because I was the quiet student in the classroom sometimes, especially whenever I got into depressive states. And that was hard because I didn't want to open up, but I knew that I had to. And I feel like quick writes and quick draws can really be a good place for us to get to know our students on a personal level. And help them get through some harder things that they may be going through personally. This was a surprise one. Sorry. In most scenarios that require students to display higher order thinking, teachers will no longer be looking for the right answer. Instead, multiple possibilities exist. And I said, this is sometimes going to be hard to move away from. And I mean that in the way of the teacher and also of the student. Because some students are very, to the point, they need to have an exact answer. And if there's not an exact answer, that's hard for them. And also for teachers, it's the same way. If there's not an exact right answer, then that's really hard. I know a lot of math teachers are like that, and that's really, really hard if you take them out of that math setting and put them into another setting where there's multiple different answers. And this one's a feeling one, and it says, they were so excited just to think. They felt smart. Being in the classroom and giving them a voice just made them want to be there. And I said, all students should feel this way. All students should feel welcome in the classroom, and all students should feel like their voices want to be heard, because all of their voices do want to be heard by me as the teacher and by their classmates. And everyone's opinion is valid, and they are all smart in their own way. Even if they get questions wrong, they're all smart. And being in the classroom should be comfortable and amazing for them, and for them to be excited to think is awesome. But yeah, so that is my TBT, and yeah, thank you.